Well, hello, everyone. This is Tom Hammer. I'm president of the National Oilseed Processors Association. And we're going to talk a little bit about why we need to talk about U.S. soybean quality. NOPA has 13 members. Those members account for about 95% of all U.S. soybean crush. We have 57 plants within our membership that exclusively process soybeans. The membership is made up of a diverse group. It has multinationals. It has some of the nation's largest farmer-owned co-ops, and it has a number of family-owned, multi-generation, single-facility processing plants. So we really have a pretty good view of what's going on out there in the countryside. I want to start with a couple of pretty well-known facts, but I think this will put things in perspective for us. These happen to be U.S. Census Bureau facts, but it basically shows that by 2040, there are going to be 9 billion people in this world to feed, coming from about 7 billion right now. But to put that in perspective, that's about a 50% increase since just around 1999. That's a lot of people that we're going to have to gear up and produce food for those people that desire a better diet and protein. So if we look at this chart here, it's basically a chart that shows since the year 2000 up until about 2015, global soybean production and consumption are pretty nearly in balance. Nothing out of kilter here. We're basically buying pretty much everything that we can grow globally in the soybean complex. If you look at this slide, it's very, very interesting and challenging because it shows here, if you follow the trend line of global soybean consumption, that we're going to need about another 80 million metric tons in the next decade to continue feeding soybean to the world. Now let's put that into perspective. That means we're going to need more than another Argentina, Paraguay, Uruguay, and Bolivia's production to meet that challenge. Okay, so global markets are working. They're basically buying all the soybeans that are grown. So what's the problem? Well, U.S. soybean processors and growers face a lot of competition out there. First of all, we compete with corn and other row crops for acres for production, and there are a lot of alternative proteins out there. I'll name a few: meat and bone meal, mid-level proteins like canola meal, cottonseed meal, of course, distiller dry grains, DDGs, and synthetic amino acids, which can be put in by the feed compounders. And on the global arena, we're fighting for market share with Brazil, Argentina, India, and a number of other soybean producers. So very longer term, I think it's very, very important that we continue to think about the quality of our product so that we can maintain the dominant position as the premier protein source in the world. Before I come to a couple of remarks about what we might do better, let's start by saying this glass of ours is much more than half full. U.S. soy is the most competitive in the world. We have the best farm-to-market system, best crop management, best delivery systems, best risk management programs and credit programs, very diverse growing areas, and overall, the quality of the soybean is good. I made a couple of calls to many of my board members before this presentation. I asked them about soybean quality, and I found that really there is no one-size-fits-all answer here. Soybean quality varies with each crop. Each crop year is unique. It brings new problems and new opportunities. Our soybean production and quality varies by area from north to south, east to west. Of course, as farmers know, it's very dependent upon climate, soil types, growing seasons, rain, weather, temperatures. And of course, for us, it varies from each company and sometimes even between distinct processing facilities. So here's a couple of takeaways. Yield is all important. We agree with our soy farmers that over the long term, for profitability and viability, we must keep up industrial yields of soybean meal and soybeans to keep the volume up for soybean processors, their capacity utilization at good run rates, or we're going to face more plant closures like we faced over the last 3 to 4 years. Protein, depending on the geographic location, most processors agree that protein levels have been declining slowly over time, say over the last decade, and they worry that if this trend moves any lower, it could be problematic for everyone else in the industry. On the matter of oil, most processors agree that oil values about the same or slightly higher in recent years, and oftentimes that's tied to weather, whether we get the hot weather days that we need. So what are soybean processors looking for when it comes to quality and to the soybean itself that's delivered? We agree that yield must be number one. It is king. We need this to keep our industry running and to feed all those growing people that we showed earlier. The consensus, as I said, is that protein levels have been declining slowly and steadily, and we need to focus on this. They're concerned that if protein levels move any lower, below 35%, it could be problematic for processors, our meat customers, our exporters, and then ultimately to the soybean farmer. We do support the development of these new enhanced high oleic oils. We think they're going to provide a very attractive ingredient for our food customers and our consumers. We do believe that this is a three-legged stool. We've got to look at all of the challenges with respect to yields, enhancing oils, and improving protein levels. That will bring the greatest value to all of us. So here's a quick chart. This is done annually by the University of Minnesota for USB and USEC, and it shows protein and oil. It's a little busy chart, but if you look at the protein, which is the blue, you'll see that over the time it's been trending downward. And if you look at the end point here, you'll see it's dropped below 35%. We kind of view this as the tipping point, and we need to get back up here. And red is the oil, and you can see it's moved from about 18.5 up towards 19. We'd like to see it up here a little bit, but at least the trend on oil is up. As I said, we need to think about this 35%. If we go too much for oil, maybe we may lose protein level. If we focus totally on yield, we may lose some of the protein. And we've got to keep concentrating on all of this, particularly with respect to the tipping point, which I say we need to get back up above 35% protein. Here's my three-legged stool. I think we need to increase yields. That is king. We need to improve soy protein and, of course, the amino acid profiles for the feeding of animals. And we're very excited about some of these enhanced oils, high oleic oils. We think they're going to be very useful to our downstream customers. What can be done? Well, a couple of summary points here. Yield is number one, and any small drag on yield because of protein or oil can never be made up in value to the farmer. So we need to realize that. But farmers also need to understand that market prices do move according to quality. Higher beans quality is going to mean higher prices to the farmer, and I assure you that lower quality is going to mean lower prices. Farmers often talk to me about, well, how about a premium, Tom? Well, we can pay a premium, but we found that doesn't really influence behavior. Small discounts do get attentions of the farmer, and actually, when we can't make our high-pro specs on a contract, which has been difficult in recent years, we're docked on every shipment that we make. So let's encourage the seed companies to do some things. report the protein and oil levels in all of their varieties, so we know what we're dealing with. And let's choose the higher performers that have high yields, but also very good oil and protein levels. The corollary to that is let's consider eliminating those poorer performers in the lower quadrant. For change to occur, though, we strongly believe that farmers must talk to the seed companies and request higher oil and higher protein seeds in addition to the high-yielding varieties. We absolutely believe seed companies will listen to you. You're their customers, but we don't think they're hearing this right now. And yes, all soybeans will sell, but there are tools to enhance the price and the quality of soybeans. Why talk about this? Well, I think it's important that we educate U.S. soybean growers that the quality of the bean does impact market prices and their bottom line. As I said earlier, we do need to strive for a minimum of 35% protein and 20% oil, but we need to do this to make sure that we're competitive with the mid-level proteins and our global competitors. Selecting only for higher yields can create problems for us, but as well as our meal and our oil customers. Again, yield, oil, and protein are essential contributors to the overall value of the soybean and the profitability of our industry and ultimately our meat customers. Soybean farmers should consider perhaps treating their seed selection decisions as a prudent, diversified portfolio and risk management tool. We're getting increasingly amounts of requests for non-GMO beans. So consider some new variety beans, some high oleic oil, almost as though you're trying to diversify your risk in your portfolio. We do believe that farmers are going to get a margin. That's unless the quality of the bean drops so much that we lose our competitive position. But the value of the differential of any improved quality will almost always end up in the farmer's pocket. So we believe that USB, the state soybean organizations, have a terrific platform to begin and continue this conversation about soybean quality. Next steps, let's consider bringing soy value chain partners to the table to discuss their specific needs and concerns, develop a much deeper understanding of each party's priorities and goals and why they believe those are important to them, and then let's work diligently to link the supply chain together to achieve common goals and create the greatest overall value and profitability for all of us. Our future is very, very bright, and we just have to tweak things slightly to stay in the premier position of being the best soybean in the world. And I want to thank you so much from NOPA, from the board of directors, and from myself for giving me this opportunity to have this conversation with you today. Thank you.